All right. Howdy, Twitch. Howdy, YouTube. How are we doing today? How are we feeling today? It is a beautiful Monday. Welcome to the show. I am Jimmy Moreland, and this is the show where we do live auditions on the big major casting websites for voiceover and for audiobooks. That is voices.com, Voice123, and ACX. If you really like what I do here and you want to pay me a whole bunch of money to read something for your company or whatever you've got going on, head over to the website, veteranaudio.com. All the information is there. Or just continue to watch the show, comment, leave some notes in the chat. I've got chat up, and I will be responding to questions throughout the show if you've got questions about microphones, about software, about anything. I love to chat. Let's do it. Today, we've got some cool stuff. We've got a whole boatload of auditions, as we always do on a Monday afternoon. We've also got some cool work that we're going to do later. We're going to dive deep into ACX specs. That is the specifications, all of the numbers that matter when you are submitting finished audiobook work to ACX for distribution, then on to Audible and wherever else it might be going. So we're going to be taking a look at that. We're doing a double check to make sure that we are good across all platforms, and it looks like we are. So let's stop wasting time and let's dive in first to voices.com. That's where we like to start. Voices is where the timeliness is a factor. So taking a look at Voices, let's go ahead and refresh the page. Always important. Always love also to see the little red notification that we've got a message. We have a job that we've been hired for on the platform that we'll be doing later. It is one of the auditions that appeared on the stream live, but I'm not going to say which one because everything that's on the stream is for fun. Just assume, for the sake of anyone watching, potential client-wise, this is all fake. Let's just wink and just say that this is all fake. Once I do get hired, then I treat it, even if we are not under NDA, I treat any job that I have been given an offer for and hired for, I treat that as though we are under NDA, even if we're not under NDA. And I treat it as though we're under NDA until the thing airs or is available in a public way. And even then, in certain cases, clients, I'll reach out and say like, hey, can I repost this on my personal social media or on my professional reel, something like that. Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. For the purpose of the stream, it's all out there. But for the purposes of actual booked business, which we don't do on stream, obviously, except for the audiobook that we're doing, everything else is what it is. So let's go here first. Podcast intro and outro. You see these more and more nowadays. It's going to be welcome to the so-and-so podcast. Here it is. Welcome to The Script, the podcast dedicated to smarter selling for building products for the building products industry. Here's your host, Katie Doss. Okay, really simple. No reason not to go ahead and just use this as a warm-up. We're feeling a little bit like we got a little bit of seasonal things going on. We're going to briefly mute and see if we can handle that. Okay, hopefully that's better. But we're going to jump into it. You're going to hear slight chorus/delay effect as we are monitoring what we're doing in Pro Tools while we're working. And we're just going to hit the record key and we're going to see what happens. Welcome to The Script, the podcast. Welcome to The Script, the podcast dedicated building products industry. So maybe I need to put on more of my my Ford or Home Depot style read. So I'm going to embrace the stuff that's bouncing around in my nasal cavities right now. I'm going to embrace it and lean into the more gravelly type stuff. Welcome to The Script, the podcast dedicated to smarter selling for the building products industry. Here's your host, Katie Doss. You've been listening to The Script, your go-to source for marketing insights tailored to the building product industry. Visit scriptpodcast.com for more information. That felt pretty good. I don't think we are not going to worry too much about any of the details therein, we're not even going to listen to it. We're going to make sure we've got like maybe a 3/4 of a second gap between the first part and the second part. But we're not even going to listen. We feel good enough about that. Make our RX active, and that causes that delay that you hear just there. But it'll go away soon. We're just going to say the script, and that's it. All right, that goes out. Reply to job. Oh, I didn't notice how low the fee is for this job. That's a bummer. Whatever. It was practice. And if at the end of the day we end up with an extra $40 in our pocket that we wouldn't have otherwise had, then all right, fine. Let's see here. These are going to the right drive, bounces, auditions, the script. And submit. There we go. Next. Let's get this next track ready to record before we look at our next audition opportunity. We've got, this one says it's deciding. So this client made a very quick decision. We can actually see how quickly they made their decision. It posted at 11:51 a.m. Eastern Time. That is an hour and 20 minutes ago. They posted this job. And they already have already indicated to voices.com that they are making a decision. So that generally will mean that they have sent an offer to talent, and they're waiting for that talent to respond yes or no to that offer. I'm pretty sure that's what that deciding thing is going to mean there. But we're not going to worry about it because obviously we're not going to get that job. The bummer thing is, in voices.com, you cannot archive a job once it has gone from open to deciding. So you're just going to have this job that says deciding sitting there on your feed for who knows how long. So that's obnoxious. We can't get rid of this job right now. That really, it shouldn't matter, but it irritates me. All right, we've got this. I'm only a 90% voice match, but there's only 7 people in front of us. It is a bit of a longer project. Is this some kind of e-learning sales voice memo? Let's take a look here. The script length is split into 6 separate scripts. Okay. Hey, Jack here. I'm the owner of FXNL, and I want to say a quick thank you for reaching out to us. Explain how you can join our... Okay, so it's going to be like a robocall type thing, and you're going to be the voice saying like, hello, like, that's not for me. We're going to archive that one. Moving right along. What else? We got a hidden camera show to feature a product function. Mood for this should be confident and happy. Okay. BitGet. Okay. Like how many buzzwords can we fit in? BitGet's launch pool and Pool X. And what was that? What's that meme that's like what it's like to work in a modern workplace? Like, make sure you get approval through Jippy before you submit your pay stub application to Payface. You know what I mean. Okay, so whatever. It's good practice. And on voices.com, this is the place you practice. If you're just getting into this and you're like, oh, which should I do? Should I do voices.com or Voice123? If you're going to invest money in a pay-to-play site, first I'd say if you're going to invest money, then probably coaching is probably where you should spend the money first. But say that you've already got, your room is really well treated, you've got all of your hardware and your software squared away, and you've had some really good coaching, and the coach has given you the blessing, you're ready to go, then I would say try voices.com first, because Voices is where you can play. You can do those stretch auditions that in categories that you might not be totally suited for yet. And it doesn't hurt you algorithmically if you audition for something that you're not suited for. So there's pros and cons to that, both on the talent side and on the client side. But that's just the way it is. But let's go ahead and read this. All right. Who says free treats only happen in commercials? Unlock real rewards with free token airdrops through BitGet's Launch Pool and Pool X. Who says free treats only happen in ads? Oh, this is a totally different read. Okay. This should be priced accordingly. This is 2 different spots. Like, whatever. All right. Launch Pool and Pool X. Who says free treats only happen in ads? Experience 0 fees when you buy crypto with your credit or debit card on BitGet. Let's read that one again. It's Launch Pool and Pool X. Who says free treats only happen in ads? Experience 0 fees when you buy crypto with your credit. Experience 0 fees when you buy crypto with your credit or debit card on BitGet. Okay, we're going to call that good enough. Good enough for an audition. Did I cut that too close? No, I cut that just right. Do this, drag that out to be about 3/4 of a second, and I repeated this line right here. And I'm going to be so confident in my cutting, we're not even going to listen to that transition. Having the confidence in your tools and your abilities will make you, obviously, is that, it's not capitalized, okay. Obviously, the faster and more proficient you are, the better. But it also gives you a certain amount of job satisfaction. Just knowing that you can make those cuts and that they're going to be good, knowing that you can deliver good stuff on a quick turnaround, it all feels great. It really is nice. Send that off. Let's see here. And get the next track ready to go. And now you might be thinking, Jimmy, what do you do? You're on the very last track here. What if you record there? First, let's clear some space here. We're going to get rid of these first tracks. And then we're just going to duplicate this one. And I duplicated 11 times because I don't have to move my left hand on the keyboard to do that. These tiny little efficiencies that you'll learn to incorporate into your workflow as you move along. I just saved myself 1/4 of a second. What did you do today? Tau. Okay. Tell me about it. We've got an old video. Okay. Love it when the clients include a reference video. Let's take a look.
Welcome to Tel Aviv. Welcome to all.
Okay. I don't know that my voice is a great match for that, at least not at this time of the day. Maybe at like 6 a.m. if I got up and first thing I did, welcome. And we're not going to get into anything else here, but I have a feeling that this would not be a fitting job for me. So we're going to pass on it and move on. Let's go on to, this is our good friends from Hong Kong who we generally pass on just because the jobs just don't, the money isn't there. I'm sure they're very interesting, but the money isn't there, and we're poor voice matches for those jobs anyway. T&D, really low, a lot of low budget jobs today. Tuesday, I feel like is probably the best day for good paying and like substantive jobs. It's for my Archer fans out there. And yes, that is a mortal sin I'm committing. I am drinking a caffeinated beverage and a carbonated one at that in the booth. But sometimes you need a little extra something here. Now, let's see here. Generally, okay, we've got a low budget. It's going to end up actually being a pretty long, I say pretty long, it's only 3 minutes. But this kind of a budget, let's see how well the copy is written. If this copy just rolls off the tongue, I'll give this a shot. Otherwise, we're going to pass. A story of commitment to building a brighter tomorrow with over 19,000 dedicated and passionate employees driving its mission forward with its 5 key sectors comprising wire, cable and accessories, electrical products, engineering and construction, digital solutions, and infrastructure investments. Considering how likely that this, you can tell some management committee was like, oh, make sure you get the 5 key sectors in there. That consideration understood, this actually is, it flows pretty well. And I don't know if this client or whoever put this copy together is a native English speaker. I don't know anything about Mr. Khaled, and I don't know anything about this area of Egypt. I just don't know. But this is actually, it flows really well, given how chunky and how like obviously like management influenced the copy is. All that said, if that many managers can work on a script, they can afford to pay their talent more. So we're going to pass on that. Next, GPS ankle tracking promo. Are people in trouble, or is this a fitness thing? The video should start out leaning negative and dark. Okay, it is. I was being silly, but it really is. Parole officer and parolee removing the tracking device because they successfully achieved their goal of no more tracking. Wow. Okay, what a journey. Already 65 people in front of us. But at this budget, I'll roll the dice for a shot at $400, not $500. Remember, voices.com takes an additional 20% off the top of any job you book. So you just got to do that mental math anytime you see a budget that gets stars in your eyes. So let's take a look here. It sounds simple. Keep an eye on your clients. Help them out. Make sure they don't reoffend. Okay, so you are in the role of the CO. Anyone who's all my fans of Oz, please stand up and be counted. The hacks. Let's go. We'll go and do this. What's the worst that could happen? It sounds simple. Keep an eye on your clients. Help them out. Make sure they don't reoffend. Use technology to help keep track of it all. In reality, it's a lot more complex. Low and dead batteries. GPS dead zones. We've got a monitor click. I'm all hyped up on the caffeine. We're going to take a deep breath. We're going to reset. We're going to read this a little slower. It sounds simple. Let's get that first word correct. It sounds simple. Keep an eye on your clients. Help them out. Make sure they don't reoffend. Use technology to help keep track of it all. Oh, it's not the CO, it's the parole officer. Very different. Very different. All my parolees out there screaming at me. It sounds simple. Keep an eye on your clients. Help them out. Make sure they don't reoffend. Use technology to help keep track of it all. In reality, it's a lot more complex. Low and dead batteries, GPS dead zones, unorganized data are all common issues. With the enhanced Scram GPS 9 Plus, new innovation is enabling you. Let's go ahead and do punch and roll. Organized data are all common issues. With the enhanced Scram GPS 9 Plus, new innovation is enabling you to do more with your time and for your clients. A tough strap option provides added security for your high-risk clients, and a robust breakaway charger makes charging easier than never. We gotta really accentuate the contrast between, and the client even says, like the opening of this is like you're presenting challenges. These are the problems, and then in comes the Scram GPS 9 Plus, which is the solution. Excuse me. That's what I get for doing the carbonated beverages. The Scram GPS 9 comes in as the solution to these problems. So we really need to have that shift in mood and tone. So we're gonna give this another shot here. Organized data are all common issues. With the enhanced Scram GPS, organized data are all common issues. With the organized data are all common issues. With the enhanced Scram GPS 9 Plus, new innovation is organized data are all common issues. With the enhanced Scram GPS 9 Plus, new innovation is enabling you to do more with your time and for your clients. A very loud truck just rumbling by during that whole take. Oh my. That's life up here in Maine, right on the main road here. Vacation land. And I think the truck's done. Organized data are all common issues. With the enhanced Scram GPS 9 Plus, new innovation is enabling you to do more with your time and more. New innovation is enabling you to do more with your time and for your clients. Just it's an odd construction there. We're going to punch and roll right here. Enhanced Scram GPS 9 Plus. New innovation is enabling you to do more with your time and for your clients. And our Enhanced Scram GPS 9 Plus. Enhanced Scram GPS 9 Plus. New innovation is enabling you to do more with your time and for your clients. A tough strap option makes added... If I could read the words that are actually here. Time and for your clients. A tough strap option provides added security for your high-risk clients. And a robust breakaway charger makes charging easier than ever before, eliminating common charging issues. And with new battery technology that provides up to 80 hours of battery life, low power alerts are cut in half. Wi-Fi point tracking. Okay, we're going to call that good enough. That puts us right at 50 seconds. And the standard for traditional voiceover auditions is 50 to 60 seconds for your audition read. If you've been given tons and tons of copy, like in this case we have been, you are welcome to read more, but remember that chances are the client has made the hiring decision, or at least the initial shortlist or reject decision in the first 3 seconds. These people get dozens, even hundreds of auditions in. This is the Scram GPS. They get hundreds, in some cases, hundreds of auditions. They're not going to listen to all 2 minutes of every audition. That would be literal hours of their life, and ain't nobody got time for that. So, typically, 3 seconds or less of your audition is all you're going to get. So, don't do tons of work that's never going to get listened to anyway. 50 seconds is plenty. And the first 3 seconds of your read need to be right. If you're going to, I always advocate not agonizing over small details in your read. If you are going to spend extra time on any part of a read, spend it on the first couple of syllables that come out of your mouth. Okay. Voice acting of a game character for the sci-fi... Okay, this is already super broken, so, okay. Well, interesting. I see a lot of stuff for, this may be coincidence that this person has what, to my limited worldly knowledge, it seems to be a Greek name, and I see a lot of Greek game studios pop up on voices.com. So shout out to my friends in the Greek gaming industry. Good to see what's coming out of there. I've actually done. I've got a client based in Greece that I've done many repeat roles for, and it's a cool little video game company. I have actually not had the opportunity to play any of them though. Maybe someday. But they're out there, which is cool to know. Life Assure water filtration. Okay. There's 75 people in line ahead of us. We're probably not going to do this. As much as I would love to read the 3M Life Assure BBA 045 and BBA 065 series filter cartridges, as fun as that would be to read, we're going to pass on it just because there's too many people in line ahead of us. And that is the life of starting your live stream at 1 p.m. Same thing there. 90 people in front of us here, 75 people in front of us, and we're only a 90% voice match. Not even going to look at it. Here, only 40 in front of us, but it's only a $100 budget. And remember, we're only going to take home 80 of that before tax. Got a minute? We're here talking about guaranteed investments, or GICs, and what makes them such a popular way to grow your money in Canada. I'm curious if they're not looking for specifically a Canadian talent. I would assume that old Richard here knows what he's doing. He's got 234 reviews, so he's a mega experienced pro at casting stuff on this website. So We're going to assume he knows what he's doing, but we're also going to pass because of the budget and how many people are in line ahead of us. Cybersecurity product video, we're only a 90% voice match, 44 people in front of us in line. So we're going to pass. Yeah, we're going to pass on that. So again, very annoying that because of this deciding on this job, it looks like we've got a job to potentially audition for, but we can't get rid of it. There is no way for me to archive this. The button that's usually right here ain't. So that is everything that we can do on voices right now done. So we're going to head over to Voice123. With 30 minutes into the stream, we are moving along. Now I have to do my thing that I promised our friends at Voice123 I would do, and that is to protect the identities of our clients over on Voice123. So I've taken us full screen on the chat mode so that I can first click on every one of these job postings to make sure that the client's first and last name is not visible in the job posting. And we're checking, and one more. All right. Every one of these clients did do the, they did use the name anonymization feature, so they all just appear as client yada yada yada. But let's go to this view here. This is sort of the main view when you log into Voice123, and we're from here we're going to decide sort of as a first pass which one of these auditions we don't even need to look more closely at. And the easiest thing to get rid of, if you'll pardon me, is anything where more auditions have already been received by the client than they have requested proposals. I put together that sentence strangely, but you know what I mean. So there's one at the bottom here. They've requested 50 proposals. They already have 63. If we're number 64, we're not going to get listened to, so it would be a waste of our time to submit that. So we're going to close that one out. Next up here, we've got they requested 25. They've received 48. We're going to close that one out. This one we're going to close out. They've requested 40. They've received 42. So that's all the ones that are over the requested amount. Now, this one looks like it's going to be very easy to reject. I speak a fair amount of Spanish. If I was dropped in DF, Mexico tomorrow, I would survive. Maybe. My survival would not be contingent upon my ability to make myself understood and to understand people. Let's just say that. But generally speaking, when jobs pop up seeking Spanish language talent, they're looking for natively fluent Spanish speaking talent. And in fact, nowadays they're looking for Spanish speaking talent with a specific accent. So there is not a monolithic like, oh, that's Spanish, and so it must sound the same to every Spanish speaker across the planet. No, just like in English, there is an incredible diversity of accents. And so if you are trying to advertise a product to people in the northern part of Mexico, hiring someone from DF, Distrito Federal, i.e. Mexico City, hiring someone from there to advertise along the border would be a bad idea, because los norteños, the people on the border, are going to go like, oh, what's this like city slicker from down south accent doing on my La Raza radio station up here in Houston? I've listened to a lot of Spanish radio, and I appreciate all that stuff. So obviously, like even within a country like Mexico, there's many distinct regions that have their own accents, different influences from different migration patterns through the years. And it all, a lot of it goes all the way back to colonialism. Like there's a lot of really interesting history that sort of informs the modern accent landscape. And obviously that's even more stark when you go country to country. So if you're advertising in Costa Rica, you would not use Mexican talent. Generally speaking, nowadays, you wouldn't do that. Your ad buys and your talent hiring needs to be much more granular, and you need to be much more deliberate about that kind of stuff. Here we've got a great budget for what we usually see for this kind of stuff here. obviously, we're not going to submit for this, but it's interesting to look at. Looks like it's for an app. Interesting. ¿Qué tan fácil es pedir boletos? How easy is it to get tickets, lottery tickets, with the lottery app? That's what they're asking. Like, I love that, like, the really standard, like, question answer sort of format of an ad. Like, it transcends language. So, like, yeah, how easy is it to get lottery tickets with the lottery app? Yeah. Step 1, get your phone. Like, oh my God, I love it. It's so simple and straightforward. Like, but it's not for us. It's not for us. There's, hopefully these 23 talent who have already submitted, hopefully you've got native Spanish speakers in there, and hopefully one of them gets this job and cashes that check. That's really cool. Love to see good paying jobs for languages other than English pop up on here. It's really interesting. I know that algorithmically a lot of those don't get shown to me, but I think maybe somewhere I've got something tagged in such a way that Spanish language stuff does, and I'm interested in seeing it. Like, I want to see what's going on in the market and seeing how it applies to my business, and maybe there will be the one wild thing like, we need Spanish with a gringo accent, and hey, I'm your guy. Looking at this one, we're going to pass on this one because a touchstone on this show of ours is voice talent. Know thyself, and be authentic to yourself. I am not a religious person, so me reading what looks like probably a children's like audiobook about Bible stories, I'm probably not the right talent for that. So we are going to pass on that one. Intercontinental Bali Resort wedding video. So are they... Okay, so this will be I get what they're trying to do. So they're making a spec video. I would guess either this is the resort putting this together, or maybe the resort has subcontracted some, wedding video production company. And so they like, okay, we don't have our first client yet at this resort, so we're going to quickly stage a fake wedding, get a couple of actors, and they're going to do all this stuff. And so they're pulling voice from Voice123. They're pulling actors from maybe local, who knows? But it seems like it's going to be a big old production that does not pay the voice talent very well. So we're going to skip it. Interesting sounding project, though, and I wish them the best of luck there. Male narrator for Antietam Battle Doc film. Now, I wonder if this is the same documentary that we've seen snippets from for the last week or two here. We've been seeing lots of snippets of, reading a quote from General so-and-so or from, Colonel so-and-so. So I'm curious if this is like, okay, we've done the auditions for all the snippets, and now here's the audition for the overall narrator, the sort of the Ken Burns voice. So that's interesting. There's already 44 proposals ahead of us in line. So maybe, let's see here. In collaboration with the National Park Service. That'd be a cool client to have on your dang old resume there. Ezra Carmen. Unnecessary comma. Moving on. Ezra Carmen commanded over 600 soldiers from New Jersey at the Battle of Antietam. Decades later, as he walked these now tranquil fields and empty roads, the struggle, the violence, and scars of that fateful... Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of people in line ahead of us, but we're going to do this one. I think this is a cool job, cool opportunity. I think my voice is well suited to it. I think that the client will appreciate that I am a military veteran. That kind of connection does go a long way with certain clients. And so we're going to do it, just in the hopes and the slim chance that we get listened to and they like us. So let's go for it. Ezra Carmen. Got to get those first words perfect. Ezra Carmen commanded over 600 soldiers from New Jersey at the Battle of Antietam. Ezra Carmen commanded over 600 soldiers from New Jersey at the Battle of Antietam. Decades later, as he walked these now tranquil fields and empty roads, the struggle... Little too much drama, I feel. Let's chill out a little bit here. Ezra Carmen commanded over 600 soldiers from New Jersey. Soldiers from New Jersey. It's a funny little collection of consonants there. Ezra Carmen commanded over 600 soldiers from New Jersey at the Battle of Antietam. Decades later, as he walked these now tranquil fields and empty roads, the struggle, the violence, and scars of that fateful September day remained fresh in his mind. For Carmen and countless others, it was a country torn between North and South, freedom and slavery, hope and despair. At Antietam, the United States would suffer the single bloodiest day in its history and face a crucial moment in its struggle for survival. How are we feeling about this? I feel like I'm trying to do Ken Burns too much, and I think I need to step back and just do audiobook. I think I get in my head a little bit when I'm trying to when I've got a specific thing in my head, so I'm just going to do audiobook on this, I think. Ezra Carmen commanded over 600 soldiers from New Jersey at the Battle of Antietam. Decades later, as he walked these now tranquil fields and empty roads, the struggle, the violence, and scars of that fateful September day remained fresh in his mind. For Carmen and countless others, it was a country torn between North and South, freedom and slavery, hope and despair. At Antietam, the United States would suffer the single bloodiest day in its history and face a crucial moment in its struggle for survival. Through generations, people have struggled to understand the carnage and define... Okay. Change the way I read that. Moment in its struggle for survival. Through generations, people have struggled to understand the carnage and define the significance of the bloodiest day in U.S. history. As each person contemplates its meaning, the memory of Antietam ebbs and flows like the creek. Okay, we're getting very poetic here. Love it. Bloodiest day in U.S. history. As each person contemplates its meaning. Bloodiest day in U.S. history. As each person contemplates its meaning, the memory of Antietam ebbs and flows. Come on. Bloodiest day in U.S. history. As each person contemplates its meaning, the memory of Antietam ebbs and flows like the creek for which the battle was named. Little click from my monitor there. Like the creek for which the battle was named. Ezra Carmen expressed his memory and why this landscape should... We're going to stop right where we ended there because this feels like a nice, natural sort of down point on which to end, whereas this, he expressed his memory, and it ends in a colon. It leaves you like, what? What's the next line? It's not a great way to leave it, so we're going to delete that last line, and that still puts us... within that 50 to 60 second time frame that we like to be in. So we're going to do a quick edit here. We did proper punch and roll, so we know we don't even need to listen to our edits. Hit our crossfades, turn on RX, render this out. We're going to call this Antietam Narrator. Enter, accept the invite, click here, get that. And we don't need to alter our response template. We're good to go. All right, get the next track ready to go. Make you go away. Okay, let's go back to the jobs list. Last one, whiskey tumbler product video. Who doesn't love a good whiskey tumbler? Let's take a look. A rich and mature male voice. A live action video. Wait, what? So I guess it's going to be just like hands or just product shots. Yeah, I would assume that's what it means. Whether it's a fresh, light whiskey, a sharp, spicy bourbon, or a peated, smoky scotch, it makes the best better. How much gravel can I put in there? I'd have to really, really get up on the mic. Really eat the mic, as they say. Get really close up. Let me see. We'll do a read of this before we like mentally commit to, all right, we're gonna go for this. There aren't that many people in line in front of us, which is great. The budget is fine for how short the product is. We just need to make sure that we feel confident that we're gonna be like genuinely in the running. Voice123 is not the place to mess around, to just like, oh, wouldn't it be fun? Like, you need to be like, yes, I am confident that I am potentially the right voice for this job. Like, don't be submitting stuff where like, well, maybe the client will decide they want an oddball thing. No. Like, know thyself, voice talent, know thyself. Looking at the specs, looking at everything, are you the right voice for this? So I feel like this is marginal for me, but I'm gonna give it a read. Before I click accept, I'm going to give it a read, maybe listen back, but I'll probably just do it off of feel, off the vibe. Do I feel like I'm capable of delivering what they want? So let's give it a shot. Whether it's a fresh, light whiskey, a sharp, spicy bourbon, or a peated, smoky scotch, it makes the best better. Whether it's a fresh, light whiskey, a sharp, spicy bourbon. Ooh. Whether it's a fresh, light whiskey, a sharp, spicy bourbon, or a peated, smoky scotch, it makes the best better. Let's listen back to that. I think the first and the last read were potentially acceptable. Let's listen to them. Whether it's a fresh, light whiskey, a sharp, spicy bourbon, or a peated, smoky scotch, it makes the best better. Whether it's a fresh, light whiskey, a sharp, spicy bourbon, or a peated, smoky scotch, it makes the best better. I think the second one is actually fine. I feel good about submitting this. I think this could work. Let's send it out. Whiskey tumbler. We'll just go that. There we go. And did we upload or not? Okay. There we go. Submit. All right. Get the next track ready. Beautiful. All right. And that is, please, thank you. Okay. That's everything on Voice123 done. Now, let's head over to ACX and see what we've got. Let's go find projects. Okay. We're going to go ahead and make this full screen for a second so that we can easily find our filters. Once again, old ACX currently is having a hard time remembering my checkbox here. And we can see already we recognize this top project. In fact, we can see also it was posted on May 7th. Today is the 13th. So this is a crusty, stale queue here. We've been looking at these projects for a long time. I'm not one to question the work ethic or the legitimacy of any of these authors, but if you've had a project up since March 16th, I have a feeling this book's never going to get made into an audiobook. I just don't think it's going to happen. Prove me wrong, please. But yeah, currently nothing in my preferred price bucket is available. We could, if we were desperate for work, we would go into project budget and we would either step down, which we're really hesitant to do, and start looking at some of these options here. Like this looks like the kind of book that I get hired for a lot. I do a lot of science fiction, and but maybe is it science fiction? Religion and spirituality. Oh, okay. Anyway, this is where I would start looking if I was desperate, and then maybe and or slash whatever. Maybe I would look. I would not be doing that one. Jesus. Maybe I would look in the royalty share and royalty share plus. So I did a whole spiel, and maybe I'll like edit it down into like a really concise story sort of video about how to choose royalty share and some of these other cheaper projects. If you're just getting started and you're like, okay, I'm just to get something on my portfolio, I'm going to do a job for $50 per finished hour, and it's going to be a 30-minute cookbook. Like, please don't do that. It's not going to help you. There's better ways to go about starting to build your portfolio. So maybe at some point I'll do something like that if anyone would find that interesting. This is all to say that for now, we got nothing. We got nothing to do. So something I was going to do last week we were doing some real audiobook work that we have been hired for, and something that we did was we put together the 15-minute check live on stream. And anyone who watched that happen may have noticed at the very, very end of that stream, we got a little notification from ACX that our 15-minute check didn't pass ACX specs. And I was shocked. And I like to think I held it together pretty well and did not display my shookethness on the stream. But I knew, I was like, all right, this has never happened in 2 or 3 years. So I knew something funky was going on. And obviously, I was working on a dual narration project, and it's my first time doing that. And it comes down to something called gain staging. Basically, the narration coming in from my narrating partner is just way louder than my narration. That's all it was. And so we did a bit of gain staging there, and we fixed it. We got it all set. But I thought it might be fun to do a little sample of what it takes to get some audio from 0 into passing ACX specs. So the way I want to do this, we're going to open up a new project. Let's see here. Well, we'll do it this way. We're going to open up the audiobook project, and I'll create a whole new chain. So let's make all of this inactive. Yeah, I think we'll do it this way. And maybe I'll turn this eventually into its own like standalone video. I think that's what I'll do. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and do a little bit of pre-work here. In fact, no, I'll do it all on the master channel so that later I can just delete it all, because that's what I will be doing. And I'll just bring the master channel up, and it'll be that easy. So we're trying to get audio to pass ACX specs, and we're going to do it all on the master channel so that every track just flows into the master channel as we work. And we're going to do this all with stock plugins. You don't need to buy anything. Yes, I'm working in Pro Tools, and so the specifics of the plugins are going to be a little bit different, but everything that I use here will be something that you can download for free, or it comes packaged already with whatever software that you're using. So whether you are on Reaper, Studio One, Audacity, we will be using a little bit of Audacity later, and there's a special little tool that you'll find interesting for sure. Audition, Twisted Wave. There are lots of good DAWs, digital audio workstations, out there. You by no means need something as crazy as Pro Tools. In fact, I do not recommend it. I use Pro Tools because I've been making music for 20 years, and this is, in certain spaces, the industry standard for making music. And so that's why I'm on Pro Tools. I already had the software when I got into VoiceOver, and so that's where we're at. What we're going to do here is we are going to we're going to take some audio that has already been recorded. It's clean, it's edited. I know that in my booth I've got a good solid noise floor, so with ACX specs, you can bring up like a little cheat sheet here. Let's see what happens if I just look up ACX specs. You need to become really familiar with these numbers if you're going to be doing audiobook work. And the numbers that you really need to know, you need to know this is all about formatting and yada yada, but you'll get that. The numbers that give people problems are right here. The RMS, more than anything, gives people trouble. We'll talk about that in a second. But peak values, no higher than -3 dB, so the files can never get louder than that. Noise floor, no higher than -60, so the ambient, the room tone of your room can't be louder than -60. So it all has to be between -3 and -60. You want your you want your room tone to be lower than -60. So no louder than 3 dB, and you want your quiet parts to be quieter than -60. That's what I meant to say there. So those things, anybody can do this. Anybody can make any audio peak no higher than -3. That's the easiest thing. You may be used to, especially in Audacity, I think there's a normalize feature, and you can normalize it to a specific dB, and that is a way to handle that. We'll be looking at slightly more sophisticated ways of achieving our -3 dB peak. This is also a range. It says no higher than 3 dB. Well, what does that mean? Can we do -20 dB as our highest peak? No. It's between -3 and I believe -6. So it's a pretty small window that your peaks want to land within. But as you'll see, as we go through this, it's not that difficult to nail that. The hardest one to nail is this one here, between -23 and -18 dB RMS. And what this all means, this is basically just how loud is your audio on average. That's all this means. How loud is it on average? And there are different things that can affect these numbers and put them into weird ranges in audio that you might otherwise, all the settings were the same, what's going on? For example, I sometimes still have issues with my opening and closing credits. Those are really, really short files, but we have to have silence at the beginning and end of our files, no more than 5 seconds. But if your credits are only 10 seconds long as far as your actual voice, but then you've got a bunch of silence on the beginning and end of that, well then on average, you're now starting to average a bunch of 0 into that, and that brings that RMS number way, way down. So I often find myself having to sort of cheat my opening and closing credits just a little bit, just so that it will satisfy this requirement. It's a little silly, and it does it's an overly broad brush that ACX paints with when they do tag your opening and closing credits with it's outside, because it'll say it's too quiet. So it's an overly broad brush, but hey, that's the game we're playing, and so that's what we're working with. So what we're going to do, we're going to be in Pro Tools, and I'm just going to make things super, super easy. I'm going to give myself a little bit of separation so that I don't accidentally overwrite something or do something silly. We're going to copy one of these shorter chapters, and I'm going to come down here to, chapter 20. Chapter 20 is going to be our new, and we're making it this big. So chapter 20 is our new audio. We've recorded it, then we've edited, we've done our pickups. This thing is ready to go. It's ready to go out. But, and let's go, we have to make sure our output, actually, let's really make sure that we don't screw ourselves up in future. We're going to make a duplicate of chapter 20. And right now we're going to clear chapter 20. And this duplicate, we're going to mess with stuff. And then later we're going to, because this is an actual working project file for a book we have been hired to produce, later we're just going to delete this chapter and undo everything on the master bus. And that'll make life much easier. So our output, we're going to go straight to the master bus. Where's our, please go to the master bus. Where is it? Output. There we go. There's our master bus. And I will briefly, let's drag over. So here on the left side of the screen, I hope my big dumb head isn't blocking that. Here on the left side of the screen is our master fader. And if I just hit play here.
Unlike her first.
Oh, we got 2 tracks soloed. Here we go.
Brothel in what was Hell's
So
Gate,
we can see,
mining town. Alex tugged on Suzanne's coat.
we can see already
Can we go?
that
I
it's
left my Harry
peaking
Potter
at,
book Hogwarts. I was getting to a
these
really
audio
good
levels are
point when I left this
dancing
one.
down in the negative
Hogwarts was what Alex
25,
called the watchtower
peaking
for
up
the Menders
to like
and
negative
listening
19.
since-
So it's peaking quite low. We already know this is way, way, way too quiet for our finished product. So keeping this on the very far left side of the screen so that we can drag our effects windows over here. We're going to start working with compression. So we're going to open up a channel strip. This is super, like, there's a lot of knobs, a lot of buttons, lots of stuff going on, but it's super straightforward. One moment. Got to keep the energy up for the show here. So, what this plugin is, again, this is stock. This comes with Pro Tools, whatever program that you're working in, with the possible exception of Audacity. I'm not sure what is in Audacity nowadays. They changed ownership a year or two ago, and I know that they've been adding a lot of features. So maybe some of the stuff can be done in Audacity. I do highly recommend moving up from Audacity because the biggest reason is that Audacity is destructive editing. So just suffice it to say that that is a deal breaker for most professionals who work with audio. Destructive editing is no good. You want something that's dynamic that you can really work with. So we've got our first channel strip, and what this is, and you can see the chain here: EQ, filter, dynamics, and volume. And built into all that is a gate. We're never going to touch this. You never need to gate your audio. If you've got something going on where you feel like you need to gate your audio, or if some music producer has told you you need to gate your audio, just politely nod and know that that is not what you need to do. Gating your audio, it never works for spoken word. For singers, sure, gate it, because there's other stuff going on. You got a snare drum? Yeah, gate the snare. Never gate solo spoken word. You never want to do that. It's going to create problems for you. So just don't do it. Okay. First thing, the very, very first thing that we want to do, we've got compressors here and we've got EQs here. And just to get it out of the way so that we don't have things interfering with our ears, and in fact, we're going to switch to the nicer headphones. Those are the earbuds that I use to record because the earbuds produce less leak. With these things, the isolation on them is fine, but that's not what they're built for. And so if I'm right here speaking into the microphone, it happens, I can hear it later. Some of the audio that is in my ear is also leaking back into the microphone. And in extreme cases, like if I were to crank this volume all the way up, you can actually get feedback and you can destroy your ears. But we've got these on now because we're working just in mix and edit mode right now. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a high pass and a low pass. And what this does is it says all the frequencies above or below this certain point, you're going to mostly cut them out. And for the human voice, for spoken voice, for me, that number is around like, I want that curve to start around the 70 hertz. There's not much reason to have anything below that. And likewise, this very, very top end, I'm gonna have that cut out. And this one, some of the fancier EQs will show you like dynamically, like it'll show you the waveform, and you can like try to like mix visually, I don't recommend trying to mix visually, especially the solo spoken voice. It can help you diagnose some things in a music mix, but don't try it. So suffice to say, a dumb EQ like this one is a plenty good place to start rather. So for my voice, we'll do a little bit of EQ first, and then we'll start messing with compression, because compression is where the magic really happens. But for the EQ, because the volume is still quite quiet, I'm going to turn my headphone gain up just a little bit, and we're going to press space and listen to this for a little bit here.
Brothel in what was Hell's Acre in the old mining town.
Okay.
Alex tugged on Suzanne's coat. Can we go? I left my Harry Potter book at Hogwarts. I was getting to a really good part when we left this morning. Hogwarts was what Alex called the Watchtower, where the Menders had lived blissfully since spring 2006, minus the
Okay.
fall.
And what I'm doing here,
That was also when they bought the old...
apologies for that very loud, likely loud email alert. Let's see if we've got an... Oh, we do have a couple of voiceover auditions. But right now, we're in the zone here. So I'm making small changes to the EQ. We are not doing stuff like this. We're not doing like crazy, like, oh, we're going to EQ sweep and do all this. No. We're doing small shaping changes. The whole reason we've spent months getting our booth to sound good, and we've got an expensive microphone, is because we want things to sound as close to perfect going into the box as possible, so that we're not having to do crazy EQ shaping to try to fix a jacked up sound. If your EQ looks like a sine wave, something's going on wrong. So this little dip that we've got here, that is a less than 2 dB dip. It's a very small dip right at that 400 hertz range that just my voice has a lot of buildup right there. I like a tiny, like again, this bump, it's 0.4 dB. I like a tiny bump for my voice around 100 dB, because if I've got this voice, why not? Especially when I start doing internal monologue stuff and I use the proximity effect, why not get up on the mic, and why not accentuate that just a little bit with a tiniest bump at 100 dB. I'm also doing a tiny cut up here. We're going to listen a little bit closely, because I can get a little bit sibilant. And the TLM-103, this microphone, is also kind of famous for being a little bit saucy up in the sibilant range. So let's listen a little bit again.
And it was called the Old Prospector. It had been a town landmark for over a century, and before it was respectable, an old dance hall / brothel.
All right. That works for me. We're going to bring our volume down on our headphones just a little bit. And now we're going to start playing with the compressor. Now, doing any kind of mastering chain, it's not just one plugin, set it, and you're done. You're going to be doing this in layers, and that lets... You don't want any one plugin to be working super hard, because that will inevitably introduce all kinds of artifacts and ugliness that will be blatantly audible, and I don't want to say ruin, but it will diminish the quality of the listening experience. So first thing when you're going to start messing with a compressor is you want to find your threshold. You want to find, and to visually, here's where we can do some visual stuff. We need a ratio of something. Doesn't matter how much it is. It's got to be greater than 1 to 1. 1 to 1 means no matter where we set this threshold, this compressor is never going to do any work. We want the compressor to be doing some work while we're trying to find the threshold. So I'm just going to randomly set it to any number, and then we're going to press play, and I'm going to start dragging this threshold until I see right here, I've got this very handy attenuation meter, and you'll see that start to dance. And I only want 3 to 6 dB of attenuation. I don't want this compressor to be pumping, to be working really hard. This is just, this is spoken word. This is not, electronic dance music. You don't want a pumping effect. We just want this to be working just slightly. So let's take a listen.
Old Prospector. It had been a town landmark for over a century, and before it was respectable, an old dance hall / brothel
Okay.
in what was
Now we can
Hell's
see it
Acre
working.
in the old mining
See that?
town. Alex tugged on Suzanne's coat. Can we go? I left my Harry Potter book at
See, it's not working too hard. One thing I will do, setting a threshold at negative 41, that is a really low threshold. So I'm going to use this handy dandy trim thing. None of this is necessary, but just for my own peace of mind, this is called gain staging, a little bit of gain staging I'm doing. I'm going to just really quickly in my head do this math. I'm going to bump the threshold up by about 15. So call that negative 25-ish. And I'm going to bump the trim up by about 15. I like to have lots of headroom when I record, so that's why I've got so much headroom to work with. Before, some engineer out there is telling me I'm an idiot for not being as close to the red line as possible at all times. These are audiobooks, man. We got breadth. Let's go.
And it was called the Old Prospector. It had been a town landmark for over a century.
So the two things that you're hearing, first of all, it is louder. We just bumped the gain. We just bumped the volume by 15 decibels. But you can also see, just looking at this attenuation, that the compressor is working about as hard as it was before.
Called the Old Prospector. It had been a town landmark for over a century, and before it was respectable, an old dance hall / brothel in what was Hell's Acre.
Okay. So some of these are a bit louder. And in fact, if you're really concerned with is this compressor going to overly squash certain parts, you can look at your waveform and you can find the loudest bit in your audio, and you can just see what that does and listen. So we're going to listen to this, whatever this opening consonant here is really loud.
Spring 2006, minus the previous fall. That was also when they bought the old...
Not too intense, not too insane. So we're going to knock this ratio down just a little bit. I like a 2.5 for my first layer, and similarly, we're going to bring the threshold down a little bit. Let's listen to this a little bit.
Hogwarts was what Alex called the Watchtower, where the Menders had lived blissfully since spring 2006, minus the previous fall. That was also when they bought the old restaurant that had been an important part of Ryan's life since his first visit.
All right. These other items here. Attack. Generally, for audiobook stuff or for spoken voice, you want to keep your attack as fast as possible. Higher attack values are really useful for certain musical applications. So for a bass guitar, for snare drum, you might have a longer attack. But for the voice, for what we're trying to do here, keep your attack as short as possible. And likewise, your release, whatever the default is probably going to be fine. You don't want an overly long release, and having a super short release is more likely to give you a little bit of that pumping effect. So I'm just going to leave it right where it is. And just because it makes my brain happy, I roll the neon just a little bit. It's not super important. It just smooths the transition for how much compression it's going to apply when you're right at the threshold. And so I think...
Hogwarts was what Alex called the Watchtower, where the Menders had lived blissfully since spring 2006, minus the previous fall.
That sounded all right to me. Now, whenever I apply a compressor, when it's working, when its attenuation is doing its thing, that is lowering the volume. And so you have this gain knob here. Sometimes it'll be called makeup. We're going to bump that up. Now, on average, we're attenuating by 3 to 6 dB. So we're actually going to bump this gain up by, why not a full 6 dB? So that means what's coming out of here, we raise the dB by 15 going into the compressor. Then the very loudest parts get squashed by 6-ish. And then we're boosting it by another 6. So this thing has been boosted. The very quiet parts have been boosted by a total of 21 dB. But we can always check. We can always sort of, if you will, check our work and look at the master fader. And this is good to sort of check your work from time to time. We're going to press space, and we're going to look at the master fader and make sure that we're not burning way too hot already before we apply our next level of compression. So let's hit space and look.
The Menders had lived blissfully since spring 2006, minus the previous fall.
Here's the loud part.
That was also when they bought the old restaurant.
All right.
An important...
We're not burning too hot. We're still not peaking above 4 dB, just barely. So we're going to add another layer of this same plugin, another channel strip. Channel strip into a channel strip. And now we're going to do another bit of EQ shaping. And this is going to be just as light a touch, and this will be purely with our ears, just feeling it. Now that we've got a lot more volume to work with, this is a lot louder in our ears, and the previous compressor is working a little bit. Those sort of affect how things hit your ears. And so this is another opportunity to shape things just a little bit. We're not trying to correct problems. The first EQ, that's where you correct problems. Well, ideally, you correct problems before it even gets into the box. But if you have to correct problems, that first EQ is where you fix problems. Here is where you do a little bit of shaping if it needs it. And again, we might not even change anything, but let's listen.
That was also when they bought the old restaurant that had been an important part of Ryan's life since his first visit with his granddad Edwin and his white uncle Mel the summer before he started kindergarten in Grand Junction. Okay, we'll go in a minute, said Suzanne. Now, Ryan, if the new cook needs any help, don't hesitate. Never mind.
I am sweeping here a little bit.
No point. You need to head up to Denver next week. I don't like being out in the boonies without a sat phone. Alex looked at his shoes. I'm sorry, he said.
All right.
She looked down.
There's just one little spot up here that was hitting me just a little bit funky, so we attenuated that, and we are otherwise happy with it. So let's go right into the compressor here. We're going to pump our ratio up a bit here, and then once again, we're going to start playing with the threshold until we find out where we want it to be set.
That was also when they bought the old restaurant that had
probably
been
too high to start with, or too low rather.
Since his first visit with his granddad Edwin and his white uncle Mel the summer before he started kindergarten in Grand Junction. Okay, well.
Now what I want, our first layer of compression, let's look at it again. So this is the first channel strip. Our first layer is pretty soft, 2.5 to 1. That's a pretty gentle compressor. This compressor has done most of the work of bringing our volume up, of getting us closer to this -23 to -18 RMS. I would wager that we're probably already pretty close to that number. This next layer, so now we're on the second layer of our compression plugin here. This one is to get us, we're trying to nail that right now. We're trying to really nail -23 to -18. And there will be some trial and error, and we'll get to that shortly here. But we're going to try to nail that down by having a little bit harder of a ratio, so 4 to 1. And then we want to be really careful about setting our threshold to where we're just grabbing the very loudest peaks and bringing them down a little bit. So let's listen from, say, right here.
This morning. Hogwarts was what Alex called the watchtower, where the Menders had lived blissfully since spring 2006.
That seems...
minus the previous fall. That was also when they...
That seems to be a pretty good place. Maybe we'll bring it down just a couple... Yeah, I think that's fine. And then we are once again... We're going to bump it by about 3 dB. And this gain knob will likely end up being the magic gain knob that helps us really dial in our RMS. But I think we are good to go on these plugins here. Now, one more. We need our limiter. And for the limiter, now on my personal productions, I usually do use a third party, an aftermarket limiter that I have paid for. It is a Waves plugin. Waves, sometimes they have crazy awesome deals. Sometimes they give stuff away for free. But for the purpose of this video, we are going to use something that does ship with Pro Tools. And guess what that's going to be? Another channel strip. We're going to use this as a limiter, which means an infinite ratio. Basically, wherever we set this threshold, this is saying, nah, you are not getting above this. And we're going to go ahead and set this threshold to just under 3 dB. Now, the way to do this is kind of funny. I've never actually done it this way, but this is how you do it. Setting a little bit of a knee so it's not such a brick wall, and brick wall is the term for limiters in certain respects. But let's listen and see how close we are on
really
this.
good part when we left this morning. Hogwarts was what Alex called the...
Let's take a look here.
That was also when they bought the old restaurant that had been an important...
So we're not quite close. We're going to be able to basically go back and forth from channel strip number 2 to channel strip number 3. And we're going to keep pushing the channel strip number 2 via this magical gain knob. We're going to keep pushing this up and up and up, and then heading back over to our limiter. And we're going to see when that limiter starts to work at the threshold that we've set for it. So let's see.
That was also when they bought the old restaurant that had been an...
Not quite enough. We could do this via the trim, but I don't want so many different parameters like competing with each other. I want one place that I know I can go back and fiddle with.
That was also when they bought the old restaurant that had been an important part of Ryan's life since his first visit with his granddad Edwin and his white uncle Mel the summer before he started kindergarten.
Very close. Very close. We're going to pump it up maybe 1 more dB. And then I think we'll start tripping this this limiter. Let's take a look.
That was also when they bought the old restaurant that had been an important part of...
So close. Let's go nuts. Let's give it 2 more. This is what you do.
That was also when they bought the old restaurant that...
Issue. We can hear it before we noticed it visually. We're burning out the master channel here. We got to diagnose what's going on there. Let's see what's going on there. We might have a weird stereo field thing going on, and that would be very annoying.
What Alex called the watchtower.
Yep. So to save us from doing math, when you've got weird stereo field things going on, a safe thing to do is to drop everything by 6 dB. That's about your difference in gain, in volume level, between stuff that's panned left and right and panned center. Just when in doubt, if you've got issues like we're having at this moment, just drop it by 6 dB. So we're going to do 2 things. We're going to drop our threshold here by 6 dB. So we're going to drop it down to like negative 9.1. And then here, we're going to drop this by a similar amount. So call this 4. So we're going to reset the master meter, and we're going to see if we still get the same issues here.
What Alex called the watchtower, where the Menders had lived blissfully since spring 2006, minus the previous fall. That was also when they bought the old restaurant that had been...
That seems to be working pretty well. We can see here that we did barely peak above. So we're actually going to we're going to bring this knee down a little bit. We're going to bring this threshold down a little as well. I'm going to bring this threshold all the way down to negative 10. And I know this is so counterintuitive, and I'm sure there are other DAWs that handle this weird stereo discrepancy that we're experiencing. I'm sure there are other DAWs that handle it better and give you more of a what you see is what you get, sort of like it meets your expectations. But this is all just to say, if you're banging your head against a wall, like Googling everything you can, like why it says my limiter is set at -3, but like I'm way above that. What is going on? Why aren't limiters limiting? You could be experiencing one of these things. So just try dropping everything by 6 dB. What we're going to do now is just to get a sense of where we are. And we're going to do that by using a free tool. So we're going to grab this whole thing and we're going to bounce this out. Bounce. And we're going to call this, RMS test. Bounce this out. And now we're going to open our good friend Audacity. Again, Audacity is a free tool. It is a DAW in a sense. And people have made full, beautiful audiobooks with this program. So I'm not here to say that you cannot do this. I'm just saying your life will be a whole lot easier if Audacity is just a tool in your tool bag rather than the only tool in your tool bag. Now, the plugin that you're going to want to get is called ACX check. And if you just Google ACX check, and it might offer to autocomplete that to ACX check plugin, right here on the Audacity website, you'll find one of the options here. Boom, ACX check. You download this .ny file, and then within within Audacity, where is it? Nyquist plugin installer. It's right here in this menu. There's little walkthroughs on how to do this, but that's basically how you do it. You download the .ny, acxcheck.ny, then you go plugin installer, and you just browse for it. It's probably in your downloads folder, and you hit apply. Like it's that straightforward. So now we have to go. We find the file that we just output. I've got it over here on this other window. We'll bring it in, and we're just going to click and drag the audio right there onto Audacity. We're going to hit select all, tools, ACX check. Now, just looking at these peaks, they're not super uniform. I bet we're going to need to squash this audio quite a bit more, but let's see if I'm right. We'll see how close we are. Okay, peak's too high. 0.05 dB. That's way too high. And the RMS is too quiet. So we've got two things that seem to be like, well, how can it like simultaneously be too loud and too quiet? The peaks are too loud. The average is too quiet. So we're going to, that's why, again, there are tools where I could be doing this within Pro Tools and not having to do this extra step with Audacity, but this is useful to know that you can do this all with free tools. So that's why we're doing this here. So first things first, let's address the peak, let's address the peak situation. And that is done simply by going into the layer of the channel strip that has our limiter on it. And we're going to bring this threshold down by 4 dB, about 4 dB. Let's bring it to about right there. And likewise, on this layer 2, we're going to bring this gain down by about 4 dB. You don't want your limiter to be like, you want your limiter to very rarely come into play. So this is channel strip layer 2. And this gain knob controls what it's sending to the limiter. And that limiter is like last line of defense. That's its job. But we can go all the way back to the first channel strip here. And this is now the knob that we play with to start messing with our RMS. We're going to boost this. How far were we on this? Let's run the ACX check again. Oh, we were so close on the RMS. But remember, we just dropped our level on our one compressor by 4 dB. So we've got to make that up and then give us another 3 dB on top of that so that our RMS is falling right smack dab in the middle of this range. So let's give ourselves an extra 6 dB here. So that's 12. And now we have to be careful, and we need to go back and look and see what that actually is doing in this layer of compression. So we're back to compressor number 2, and let's actually watch and see that we're not squashing things or doing anything horrible. Let's listen.
Potter book at Hogwarts. I was getting to a really good part when we left this morning.
Okay.
Hogwarts was what Alex called the Watchtower, where the Menders had lived.
We're going to bring the
blissfully
threshold
since
up
spring
just a little.
2006, minus the previous fall. That was also when they bought the old restaurant.
Okay. I'm personally hearing some funky audio artifacts, but I think that is because I'm like simultaneously monitoring this in Pro Tools and in OBS. So maybe I'm getting sort of like, double stereo field wonkiness. Hopefully it's coming through cleaner on the stream, but this is all good. So we're going to bounce this out, and we're just going to let it, RMS test _1. Sure. So now we're going to come over here. We're going to clear this one. And then as soon as it's done, that fast, we're going to do this. I'm suspicious of a couple of these peaks, but we are going to do analyze, ACX check. Still too high, but the RMS passed. This is the dance that you have to do. You're going to have to set one, adjust the other, and just sort of keep going, bringing your peaks down, bringing your RMS up, or whatever the situation may be. And while we do this, you can already see it. Our noise floor is going to start creeping up because we're trying to keep the RMS afloat, bringing up the quieter parts, and that includes bringing up our noise floor. Thankfully, we work in quite a quiet space, and so we've got plenty of headroom to work with. -60 is the standard for ACX. I like to be under -70 for actual delivery. So let's see how much closer we can get. So we're a little too loud on peaks still. So we're going to okay. Well, actually, let's listen back to this. See if we actually are still burning the master channel.
Tugged on Suzanne's coat.
We are still burning the master
I left my
channel.
Harry Potter book at Hogwarts.
So we're still really burning this thing. So we're going to, let's see here. So we need to send everything in here and squash it down. We're going to bring this threshold back down a bit. And this thing needs to really do its job as a limiter a little better. Let's bring this down a bit. Let's watch what it's doing.
Alex tugged on Suzanne's coat.
Okay, there it is working.
Can we go? I left my Harry Potter book at Hogwarts. I was getting to a really good part when we left this morning.
Okay.
Hogwarts was what Alex called...
Now I can hear it really starting to work at some of these parts here. I don't like it. I don't like how hard it's smashing into this limiter here. So we got to go back. You can see why, if you're not familiar with using these tools, I've been making my own music for 20 years, and learning the ins and outs of a compressor in a music setting, or even just in the setting of just one single source of audio, just the voice. There's a lot, and so I hope that folks out there will appreciate why mastering engineers, mix engineers, why these people are perhaps worth your time paying. If they can build a mastering chain for you that you can set and forget, maybe it's worth that. Maybe all of this isn't something that you're into. Maybe you are, hey, I'm the performer, just let me do my thing. Awesome, more power to you. You can definitely find a person out there who will go through this slog of fine-tuning and tweaking and rechecking and checking again to make sure that you get it. My mastering chain, the one I've got on this other channel over here, that is the result of weeks and even months of fine-tuning. And now there's virtually nothing I can't throw from my voice into my mastering chain that won't pass ACX specs. There's virtually nothing. Granted, when I'm working with a partner, I do have to make some tweaks to make sure that their voice will pass ACX check. But for where I have my DAW, my channel set on my microphone gain, I know I'm always going to pass ACX specs to where I don't even run ACX check on my own audio anymore, which is why I was surprised last week when that little warning popped up. But that was just because it wasn't my own audio. It was my partner's audio. So let's keep working on this. What was our last thing here? We said our peak's too high and our RMS is fine, but in order to bring the peak down, that's also going to drive our RMS down. So we got to do this dance of bringing the RMS up. And that means, let's see here, we're going to simultaneously, we're on channel strip number 1. We're going to let this play while we mess with this.
Her mind after a decade and 8 wedding anniversaries. The last, by far, their happiest, even though it began with him in a...
So we're going to mess with this by adjusting the trim up. The trim will bring everything up, and let's bring the trim up by 3 dB. I like it. Let's try 18 here. We're going to leave this gain where it is. Now we're going to come into channel strip number 2. And we are probably going to compress this a little bit more aggressively. So let's have a listen.
Her mind after a decade and 8 wedding anniversaries, the last by far.
I have changed my mind. We're going to bring this gain down a little bit, actually. So we've increased the very first input, the trim on the very first layer of our effects chain. We've increased that a little bit, but now we're decreasing what we're sending out to the rest of the stack. So let's listen from here.
After a decade and 8 wedding anniversaries.
And Pro Tools is getting mad at me.
She panned the packed restaurant and asked, "Hard to believe, huh?"
Okay.
"Yeah," he said as he wrapped an arm around her and squeezed.
I'm going to bring the threshold up just a little bit because I don't want to be squashing it too terribly much just yet. And then over here, let's take a look at what's going on here.
His bloodline drove Alex's leukemia into remission, and according...
Okay. Likewise, we're going to bring this threshold up a little bit.
His bloodline drove Alex's leukemia into remission, and according to everyone who witnessed it, resurrected him from the dead.
Okay, that's seeming good. And we'll look at the last layer as well to make sure we're not pushing this limiter too hard.
The miracle of his bloodline drove Alex's leukemia into remission. And according
so it is pushing it a little bit. Let's check another spot here to make sure that we're not absolutely slamming into that brick wall.
Hogwarts was what Alex called the watchtower, where the Menders had lived blissfully since spring 2006, minus the previous fall. That was also when they...
Wow, that really is just slamming into that limiter. That's let's see here.
Was what Alex this morning. Hogwarts was what Alex called the watchtower, where the Menders had lived blissfully since spring 2006, minus the previous fall. That was also when they bought the old restaurant.
Okay.
An important part of...
We're just going to be a little bit careful about setting our threshold here, because wow, when it was set a little bit too aggressively, you hear that brick wall smack.
Fall. That was also when they bought the old restaurant.
That's about right. That felt a lot better, and it only attenuated by about 3 dB, and that's about where we want to be attenuating at any given time. You don't want to do major attenuations there at any point. So let's go ahead and bounce this. Actually, let's just really quick. Let's listen, or let's look at our meter as we
go. I left my Harry Potter book at Hogwarts. I was getting to a really good part when we left this morning. Hogwarts was what Alex called the watchtower, where the...
And this is still burning really hard. Sometimes, the quality of your tools do matter. It does matter. We're going to stand by our rule of when in doubt, drop by 6 dB. So we're adjusting the final output on our limiter by 6 dB, and we're gonna Hail Mary here. I'm gonna bounce this out, go, and then come into the old Audacity, bring in our latest bounce test. Now that looks maybe a little too quiet, but we're getting closer. ACX check. Peak level, pass. Love to see it. RMS level, fail, too quiet. But we're getting closer. So we feel like we've got our peak level set, which is great. So now we just need to start pumping up the RMS just a little bit. So let's come back to here. And we don't have to pump it up too much. We weren't too terribly far out of range. But we're going to pump this up a little bit. Hear how that sounds going into this.
It had been a town landmark for over a century, and before it was respectable, an old dance hall / brothel in what was Hell's Acre in the old
Let's go back to the
town.
first layer.
Alex tugged on Suzanne's coat. "Can we go? I left my Harry Potter book at Hogwarts.
Okay.
I was getting to a really good part when we left this morning."
Good.
Hogwarts was what Alex called the watchtower.
I'm going to bring this ratio down a little bit. I feel like it's working a little too hard, too soon in the chain.
Fall. That was also when they bought the old restaurant that had been an important part of Ryan's life since his first
Coming back to
visit with
here.
his granddad Edwin and his white uncle Mel the summer before he
Likewise,
started
we're going to adjust the threshold a bit.
Okay, we'll go in a minute, said Suzanne.
It's quite a dynamic performance.
Now, Ryan, if the new cook needs any help, don't hesitate. Never mind. Don't call. No point. You need to head up to Denver next week. I don't like
All
being out in the
right.
boonies without a sat phone. Alex looked at his shoes. I'm sorry, he said.
And
She
make
looked
sure
down.
that our
Don't
threshold
be.
here. Whoa.
Accidents happen. Just be more careful next time, she said, concerning his last conversation with Nana Noreen and Gamba James, which ended with the satellite phone plummeting to the base of Tower Rock.
All right. And we're going to continue our dance and run an ACX check on this one. And grab it here. Analyze, ACX check. And a little bit too high on peak, but we're much closer on the RMS. And you just do this dance over and over and over until your hair falls out. Let's see here. Let's go back. Let's listen. 5.
Dusk, Saturday, September 1, 2007. Mama Maria's Southwestern Bar and
We're
Grill,
going into both, isn't
Packer
it? Okay.
City, Colorado.
So I'm curious if this, it might be just being the way it is because of the way that this particular plugin's limiter function is working. Not all plugins are made equal. We might look for a different, because this brick wall isn't brick walling like I feel like it should. We're going to quickly glance at our options here. I'm just trying to make sure that I find one that is that's like free and included, rather than wimping out and going for, I think the Dyne 3 is included. Yeah, this is a stock plugin as well. So here, that's the knee, that's the ratio, threshold, start at -6 and see what happens there. Gain as fast as possible. Release, let's bring that back up. We don't need any sidechain or any of that mess. Let's just listen here.
5.
Okay.
Dusk, Saturday, September 1, 2007.
Ooh, listen
Mama
to
Maria's
all that. Why is it so intense?
5. Dusk,
That input
Saturday.
is so, it's just coming in so hot off of here. I'm very curious as to what's going on. It might be, maybe I've done something weird with my routing, because I don't remember this being as hard as it is right now. What's going on? Maybe I need to hire somebody. I swear I did it myself before. We're gonna cheat a little bit, and we're gonna compare what I've got going on my other channels. So on my other channels, the one I know works. Trim is only 5, gain is 9. Next one, no mess with the trim. Gain, and I'm looking at all of my my ratios here, soft then hard, and then I think it all comes down to the limiter doing its job right on the other one. I think that is what it comes down to. I just have a limiter that isn't quite acting like I want it to. So let's go ahead and cheat a little bit, adjust some settings here to match what I've got over here. Trim here, 5 dB. All right. Trim here. In fact, we'll just make this a little bit easier, and we'll just fully cheat and copy and paste here. So now let's see what we've got going on here.
Hell's Acre in the old mining town. Alex tugged on Suzanne's coat.
Okay.
Can we go? I left my Harry Potter book at Hogwarts. I was getting to a really good part when we left this morning. Hogwarts was what Alex called the watchtower, where the men...
So the limiter is working. It's doing its job. So we're going to do another test bounce, see where it is right now. That's test number 4. Let's bring it in from over here. Test number 4, done. grab everything, analyzed, check. Barely too quiet, but we got a nice pass on the peak level. So long as this limiter continues to do its job. So a big part of why I think on the other setup that we kept failing on one thing or the other is this number right here, the attack. So the other, on the channel strip, the fastest attack that it can do, you can see here, is 100, that's microseconds, I think, right? Yeah, 100 microseconds. But the fastest attack here is 10 microseconds. And that may not seem like it should matter that much, but basically for the first 100 seconds of any really loud audio source, that other plugin is letting all the audio through, no matter how loud it is, for the first 100 microseconds. And so for a loud plosive or a consonant that has a lot of amplitude behind it, that stuff gets let right through. And so you need a much more aggressive, time-wise, limiter if you're wanting to really catch those. So I think that's going to be what was messing with our peaks there. So when you're looking at your options that are available as far as choosing a limiter for your mastering chain, for your limiter, you really want to pick something that has the fastest possible attack option, because the limiter really needs to be your last line of defense as far as audio getting through. So I think we're okay with the limiter set as it is, but we do need to boost up the underlying audio. So we're not going to mess with, we're going to mess with the first layer here, and we're going to give it a boost of about 3 dB. We're going to see what that does to this layer.
Alex tugged on Suzanne's coat. Can we go? I left my Harry Potter book at Hogwarts.
That's not too bad. It's not pushing
to a really
too hard.
Good part when we left this morning.
We will give it another dB here as well. And once again, you got a test. Send it out to ACX check. And we'll see if we're closer here. This is fun. What an interesting experience. Trying to rebuild my my effects stack from scratch, basically. And we have a pass. Now, this is just barely a pass. We're right on the low end as far as the RMS goes. So what I would really do if I was trying to make a forever stack, which ideally, unless you're suddenly moving into a wildly different genre, like if you're moving into children's books or into, if you do a lot of horror and suddenly you get a romance, there's probably going to be some different amplitudes and things going on there. Totally understand that. And so you want to be able to make some fine adjustments. But generally speaking, you want to build a mastering chain that is robust enough that it will pass just about anything you throw at it. So let's go ahead and make that tiny adjustment here. We're feeling actually more confident about this, the limiter that we've chosen. I think it really was. We were having issues because that last limiter, it was too slow. It was letting too many of those peaks through, and that's why we just could not get those to meet up. But we're gonna boost the things that are ahead of it just a little bit, and see if we can't get a more comfortable RMS level. Closer to 20. We'd like to be closer to 20. We could mess with the trim. Actually, let's see what happens.
5.
How hard is it pushing
Dusk,
this?
Saturday, September 1, 2007.
So it's not pushing
Mama Maria's South.
This compressor isn't working too hard yet. So we're actually going to push the input trim. And we're going to push it by 3 dB. And we're going to see what happens. I'm not going to mess with anything else. I just feel confident that that's going to give me a pretty good RMS bump. It may not be a perfect 3 dB RMS bump, but I feel like that'll give us something here. Go back into here, and we drag it over. Let's get rid of this first. Drag this over. Test number 6. And when you start to see this nice sort of flat, level look across there, see the difference between our very first test. Can we change the orders of these, please? We can't. All right, well then I'll do it manually. So this is up top. This is the very first test. Like, look at how much variation there is in the peaks. Like this one right here, look at that peak. It's off the charts. It's going to sound like garbage and it won't pass ACX specs. But look at this one down here. Nice flat top across the board. Like, really love to see that. So let's grab all of this. Let's do the ACX check and see what we're at. Much closer to the right in that sweet spot, the middle of our ACX specs, which is -23 to -18. We're at -21. That's feeling pretty good. I might like to try to get it like another dB bump out of there, but we're feeling good. Our noise floor is nice and low. Remember, as you do things to bring up your RMS, you will necessarily also be bringing up your noise floor. So you want to make sure that you're working in an environment that's well treated and that you have done what you've been able to mitigate outside noise from getting into your microphone while you're working. If I only did voice work, I would have gone with the MKH, the 416, that Sennheiser shotgun mic, because that is better at rejecting outside noises. It's a shotgun. It's very directional. But because I also do music work, I needed something with a little bit more versatility than a shotgun mic, and so the TLM 103 was the thing for me. But that does mean, on occasion, I get outside noise that will ruin my day a little bit. But we've done it. We have, from scratch, built a mastering chain that will pass ACX specs. We can see it right here, and you can absolutely trust ACX check. It'll tell you if something's wrong. You do also have to keep in mind everything else on this page. Lots of little things that can hang you up. A chapter that you submit can't be longer than 120 minutes. If you've got an author that's trying to submit chapters that are more than 2 hours long, that's an interesting choice. But just stuff like that. These are things that with experience you'll start to learn about all these things, just because sometimes they'll come up. I had a book that a chapter came up to be 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 20 seconds. Naturally. Like, the author didn't plan that. He didn't make any special edits in order to get it under 120 minutes. It just sort of naturally came out that way. And I messaged the author. I was like, you realize you probably have the longest single chapter on Audible that wasn't like specially edited just to barely get under the to get under the wire. But yeah, the Audible, the ACX specs, I know that when you're first starting, it's a bit of a nightmare. It seems so daunting, and it really is. There's a lot of moving parts. I mean, we created 6 test files, and we've done this before, and we've done this professionally for a good while now. And I know that if you don't understand all the tools, then you can feel like you're spinning your tires forever, and you might not know that you need to switch which limiter you're using because the attack just isn't fast enough on the other one. Like, I get it, and that's why sometimes it's worth it for your sanity, for your time, to reach out and find some help. I am not putting myself forward as help that you can hire, but there are some fantastic folks out there that you can hire who can diagnose and help you walk through this kind of stuff. So I highly recommend that. What we're going to do here, actually, to try to save myself a lot of grief, is I'm going to close Pro Tools, and I'm not going to let it save. Did a lot of stuff there to my master channel that I don't actually want to be permanently saved. And likewise, we're going to close down the old Audacity. So, you know, it's funny, even for someone like me who's working daily in Pro Tools, a DAW, a tool like Audacity, still has a space in my workflow. Like I said, my mastering chain is built. I've got it set. I don't need to, it's not something I touch daily, but I've got it when I need to. If I need a gut check of like, hey, is this thing actually, like, this seems a bit loud to my ears, let me open up Audacity, run it through ACX check just to check. for ACX. Now, we are near the end of our time. However, we got a couple of emails while we were. Look and see real quick before we shut down the stream. Let's take a look real quick and see if any of these are auditions that are worth doing on the stream. We know how this goes. We reject the majority of the audition invites that we get, but you never know. That's part of the job. So let's head back to full screen here. And we're back on voices. Let's hit the refresh key again here. And we've got, that one deciding job is gone. And this just shows you how fast you need to be. Look at this. This was posted during this stream. This was posted at 1:52 p.m. It is now 2:54 p.m. It has been 1 hour, because we're on East Coast time. It has been 1 hour, and there are 66 responses ahead of us. It's all for you, my friends. It's all the love for you. So, but if we had not been yammering on for an hour, if we had been sort of in regular work mode, not streaming, but in regular work mode and ready to take this and submit an audition for it, then, we could have been in the first 10 responses easily, because we feel like we're confident in our speed. But speed is the name of the game, and here we were jib-jabbing, and so we missed out on it. So we're going to go ahead and archive that. We are going to look at this one, though. We've got a really low budget. Short CG animation looking like a game cutscene, not a real game. Okay. We're only an 80% voice match, and the budget is super, super low. We're going to pass on it. Let's see if there's anything over on Voice123. Let's hit the reload. Let's check to make sure we're not going to reveal any client names. 1 and 2. No client names will be revealed. Let's look at this. We've got an audiobook. Am I going to have to bring up the spreadsheet? Post-apocalyptic, ex-military, tough, at times intimidating persona. All of those, I have read many books that absolutely fit into all of these specs. But let's see if the budget makes sense. I can see right now that it really, really doesn't. We're going to briefly come off a full screen so I don't divulge any state secrets here. We're going to bring up my my handy-dandy audiobook Is It a Good Deal spreadsheet. So I've got it up right here. This is my audiobook per finished hour calculator. So let's bring this up just right next to it here. So here it is, per finished hour calculator. We can close a couple of these tabs here. So this book here, the total words, they're estimating 83,000. 83,000, enter. And I've got this cell here that says the estimated project length is 8 hours, 55 seconds. And that's based on an average of 9,300 words per hour, which is what ACX uses to forecast project length. And I've found that for myself, that's pretty accurate. I read at about right at 9,300 words per hour. Next, total budget. Their total budget is fixed. It is $500. 500. Enter. That means that this project pays $56 per finished hour. My friends, that is not a livable wage. You know what? We're going to create a new cell here. We're going to do this. We're going to call this typical beginner dollar per hour. We're going to drag this cell down, and then we're going to have to fix a lot of things here. So this one's grabbing from there. This one needs to grab still from here, but instead of 2.5, we're going to use 8. So what's happening here, first of all? Okay. In this cell, what's happening is I am taking the calculated per finished hour, which is absolute. It is based on numbers that have been given to us. The client said they have a budget of 500. The client said the length is this. So this is the per finished hour rate. There is no disputing that. What does start to get fuzzy is the rest of our math here. This 2.5 that I've got in this cell, my ratio of the time of my labor that it takes for me to create one finished hour is about 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours of labor, 1 hour of finished audio. And when you back up that math, I would be earning about $22.40 per hour before tax. At that rate, in the area where I live, I might as well be working at Home Depot. Now, granted, I can't wear my pajamas to work at Home Depot, but at Home Depot, I would get discounts on hardware and tools and stuff, and that's, a nice perk. But we have a ratio of 2.5, which is pretty good. We've worked for years now to achieve a ratio of 2.5 to 1, but a typical beginner is going to be anywhere between 6 and maybe even 10 to 1. On your first book, you should budget your time to allow for 10 hours to create one finished hour of audio. And that's accounting for all the retakes, all the editing. It's going to take way more time than you might have initially thought when you were getting into this thing. And so we're using right in the middle of that range. We're using 8 to 1. And at that rate, you're making $7 an hour. And in much of the country, if not, what is the current federal minimum wage? U.S. federal minimum wage. $7.25. You'd be making less than minimum wage, my friend, if you were to take this project. And if you're super fast like me and you've been doing this for years, then if you've been doing something for years, you would expect your pay to rise, commensurately with the experience that you've developed. And yeah, that is shown basically as a function of our efficiency. But the rate that we also are asking for needs to go up as well so that this client isn't competing with Home Depot for our labor. It just, the economics, it makes absolutely no sense. So that is a very, very, very long-winded way of saying absolutely not to this project. And we are going to very specifically decline with a no. And this currently has 0 out of 10 proposals. I'm not surprised. No one's jumping at this because maybe other people have a similar spreadsheet. Rather than declining this from the main menu, we are going to decline specifically with budget disagreement. I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know. I think it's just client education that needs to happen. I think this person has never considered these numbers. They've never considered how much work goes into creating one finished hour of audio. It's not like, well, it's an 8-hour audiobook, so that's 500 divided by 8. So $500, it's an 8-hour audiobook. So you're making $63 an hour. That's not bad. That ain't how it works. So yeah, client education. I do think that when, for example, when this client puts in this number here, big flashing lights. Hey, Clippy, the Microsoft Clip, paperclip, Clippy should pop up and says, hey, it looks like you're posting an audiobook that's this long. Here is the suggested bare minimum for you to acquire good talent. Anything below this, I'm sorry, man. Take that shit to Fiverr. It doesn't belong on Voice123. I love the folks at Voice123. They've been very, very kind to me in their emails with me, especially since we started this stream, which, I was aware, they could have gone the other way. They could have said, you're going to stop this immediately. But they were very, very kind and, in fact, had some very constructive ideas. But this is something... why are we seeing stuff like this? This belongs on Fiverr. This belongs on Upwork. This belongs on Craigslist. This is not Voice123 level work. This is garbage. Sorry. Best of luck to the client, and best of luck to any talent that signs up for that. Okay, let's go to the next one. Award video. Okay. Video will be played at one event. I'm curious if this is a... we'd like the VOE to be fun and edgy. They're looking for accents ranging from North American to British. So, interesting. Male young adult to male adult. I'm always hesitant when they include male young adult, because that's not what my voice sounds like. So it's giving us lots of information about what we're seeing. This is Megan. Megan is our Director of Marketing and Sales at Twin Valley, a premier broadband and communications company. To a privileged few, she is known as Margarita Megan. Not because she is a lush, but because she celebrates wins with a margarita, and she always be winning. This is very fun. Like, I like the way this is written. I like the way that this is presented, but it just doesn't seem like it's us. And on Voice123, very, very important to submit auditions that match your voice print, your personality, who you are. That's the way to succeed in the algorithm. And so, as much as like I'd like to do it because that's fun copy and it sounds like an interesting project for sure, we're gonna have to pass on this one. So let's do one last check, and we are indeed all fresh out. And I still have this notification up here in the corner letting me know that it's time for me to do some paid work. I've got a client that is patiently awaiting delivery of a read of an audition that we acquired during this very stream. Not today's stream, but this thing that we're doing here, this silly little stream. So I'm going to have to say thanks for stopping by. Love to see the folks stopping by. If you have any questions or comments, hit them down in the YouTube comment section. I will be responding to comments there. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow, same time, same place, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. And I still have, I owe folks, and I've been talking about doing the full 1 finished hour video. That's going to be like a 2.5 or a 3 hour video. I promise it's coming. I'm working out kinks in some of the technology around it to make things just a little bit more slick and streamlined so that I can do videos like that more easily in the future. So appreciate everyone's patience with that. But thanks for stopping by. Can't wait to see y'all again. And good luck in your auditions. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about my auditions. And we'll see you around. Cheers, everybody. Thank you.